B-Bad and Brandon.
We only really got one question, and then we just see what happens after that.
Yeah, nice. I know I'm not in jail. I know it looks like I'm in jail here.
Oh, cool.
But
Mate, you could have sold us on that.
I should have gone with something, but that's okay.
We wouldn't have judged.
So
we probably would have, not far away from that anyway. So.
Yeah, no, I don't know how I managed to avoid fucking prison, to be honest. But
that's a question I ask myself a lot. So I'm like, we're doing good. You know, if I get to age 30 and not have touched prison yet, I'm sweet.
Yeah, that's right. That's a good gauge if you ask me. So
exactly.
Good.
So we'll get into it. We have one question. Mr. B-Bad, take it away.
The one only official moment of this whole show that is one very important question. It is 21 sounds, keyword being sounds, not words, because if you cough, sneeze, say or ah, they are included within that count. 21 sounds, who you are and what you do.
Whoa. Hold on. I feel like I'm just sat down to take the SAT test and didn't prepare.
This is what we love. We love the pre-21 words.
Oh, yeah.
You need 21 sounds of what I do?
Yeah, so it can be words. It can be any sounds you want to create.
Pressure, brand.
I'll count the words. Johnny, you cut out a little bit of there again. Do you want to try the Wi-Fi?
Damn, fuck. Back in the Wi-Fi.
We literally had this problem last time too. Yeah, so it's 21 words. Whatever you want to say about yourself. A little bit of an icebreaker to introduce yourself. Our audience loves this because they feel the pre-21 words anxiety just as much as you do.
Empower women to accept their bodies and help men appreciate that their souls having a
6 words left.
I'm gonna use that.
Oh, you just used 3.
Human experience.
Boom.
Damn.
I actually think you got 1 word left, and that was bloody.
I don't know what that was.
That's a sound. That counts. That was brilliant.
That's the sound.
I love it.
That's probably the most accurate one we've ever had.
Oh, 100%. And I think the first guest to ever count her own. So
exactly.
That's not a sound. I was gonna do that, but I can't. I'm not very good at it, and I haven't shaved in like.
Jesus.
I don't know, like
look at the size of those guns. That's incredible.
Oh,
not bad,
damn.
huh?
Sneaky flex.
Yeah.
There.
How do you get those?
I think you got to do an accessory.
Yeah.
So not just squats.
No, we can't just squat to get those.
Fuck.
A pretty, I guess, powerful message you're trying to get across to women. How did that begin for yourself? Where did you come across that?
That's a really good question, and I'm super glad you started out there because it's probably my favorite part of my story. So,
awesome.
Oddly enough, I actually started out as, I guess, what you would consider a men's right activist. And you guys might remember the whole porn star story when my husband was the CEO of the Titans. Were you around when that happened?
No.
Okay, so
Nope.
I'll give you a little snapshot. So back in 2012. Okay, well, actually, let me back up a little bit before that. I had gotten into bodybuilding as a way out from drugs and alcohol, about 2008, and I somehow stumbled into the muscle fetish industry. And I, as being somebody who wanted to have legs that looked like Kate Moss, I don't know if you remember Kate Moss. You guys are probably a bit younger than me. Okay. But her legs are like the size of my forearm. It was never going to be possible. But I was so desperate to, have smaller legs. And so when I discovered this world of men, and I'm talking about men from all over the world. Okay. This wasn't like dominatrix type stuff. This was men wanting to experience true female strength. that weren't, didn't include sex or taking your clothes off. It was literally like demonstrations of strength from wrestling, arm wrestling, picking guys up and carrying them around. There was some like foot worship stuff in there, humiliation. I mean, that's how I got into arm wrestling, jujitsu, all these various things. Yeah. And I was getting paid bank. It was like $400 an hour. And I'm like,
wow,
how is this even possible? My whole life, I grew up wanting to be what was on the cover of a fucking magazine. And, thinking that because I had a little bit of cellulite or dimples or wrinkles, that there was just something wrong with me. And I was constantly obsessing in my head and trying to change the way that I felt about my body. And once I stepped into this world, not a single one of you fucking cared. It didn't even like register to you that, do you know what I'm saying? It was just like, oh my God, a strong woman. And so in doing that, it truly just helped me realize that the world is not what we think it is, and that every fucking person is wearing a mask. And I mean, I came across some super interesting stuff from like, because I pushed the envelope a little bit too far sometimes, and I was like, whoa, I'm not going to do that again. But plus I was taking a lot of Oxycontin at the time. I wasn't clean and sober, so I made some like relatively poor decisions. Like for example, this one guy who was a history teacher at a middle school, like in his 60s, fucking comb over, had cats, and he wanted me to like administer an enema with soap because he was addicted to pain. And I'm like, how is this guy fucking teaching junior high kids? But he's like the nicest. Do you know what I mean? And that was just like my first realization that, holy shit, everybody is wearing a mask, and everything from like federal judges, police officers, military, to computer programmers, to pediatricians and dentists, and, like all different walks of life, ages, belief systems, religious backgrounds. And it wasn't, I didn't see myself as a dominatrix because I'm not into that shit. Like, call me mistress, I'm going to slap you because it's annoying, not because I like to hurt people. And it was like being in the presence of a powerful, strong woman. And I would sit and I'd end up talking to these guys and I'd be like, how did you wind up here? Why is this so hush hush? And all these guys would be like, well, I'm afraid my friends are going to call me gay. And I'm like, look, it's cool. Your friend just called me last week. Don't worry about it. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I would just be in this position, and then I'd talk, because when I went to college, I was pretty much in a blackout the entire time. So I was just deep in my alcoholism. But one class that I really remembered and held on to was I took men's health. And learning how much you guys are fucked. Just like, yes, women, we have a lot of issues and we have a lot of challenges, but you guys in particular, like, you are born into this box. And if you step outside that box, you're a little fucking bitch. You don't cry, you act like a man, you're the breadwinner, you're the rock. If you came home and we were married and you started crying and you're like, oh my God, fucking, he was so mean on our podcast today, I'd be like, bro, you need to sack up and get your shit together. You know what I mean? So it's like, we're conditioned by society to like already have these mental fucking constructs of how we're supposed to act because of our gender. And even though I still struggle with it today, because I fully identify with being a female and a woman, right? And I still, like, with everything that's come up with the binary and pronouns, and I struggle with calling, like, they're trying to change calling breast milk to chest milk. Like, there's certain things that I truly struggle with. But at the same time, I do appreciate that gender norms have really fucked a lot of people up. And there's, for example, so many men who have body dysmorphia or, eating disordered issues or disordered eating, and they're not even aware of it because it's just not even, a thing to them, because it's just so unacceptable. So that's actually where I started out. And after I got out of doing that for about 3 years, and how I got out of it, though, was funny, because my husband when I met him, I said, look, I want to share this message with women. I want women to know that there is a man out there who is going to pay $400 an hour to worship her calf muscles. And she's going to have just left the house thinking she's fat. You know what I'm saying? Like, the world is not what we think it is. I was like on a mission to share this message. Yeah. Excuse me. And along the way, though, he ended up getting a job as the CEO at the Gold Coast Titans. I came on as this assistant strength training coach for the under 18s. It was a volunteer position. But because of my past, I had like some nude photos on the internet. I had videos on an adult only website. Even though I wasn't topless, I was like arm wrestling men and making fun of them when I beat them and be like, oh, you got beat by a girl, you little bitch. But because it was the association, this journalist wrote a headline and it said, CEO hires ex-fetish porn star wife to train the under 20 or under 18s. And this shit, they took the most raunchy shit off my Facebook page and like made this cover that was just like so hideous. It was a Gold Coast Bulletin. But that shit, it got syndicated around the world. It was like Denmark, UK, India, fucking New Zealand, everywhere. And what I'd realized was like a year prior, an all blacks player, like he married a proper porn star and the whole country is high-fiving him, right? Like, way to go, son, good job. And then here I come along and it's like, I'm the dirtiest, filthiest, nastiest, fucking deplorable piece of shit. And I was like, wow, this is really interesting. But the day before this story broke, I applied with Big Brother, Big Sister because I wanted to mentor a teenage girl. Because I knew like deep down, I was like, I want to mentor girls. I want to, share this message with women. And then the shit happened a whole month. You guys shut down for the whole month of Christmas, December, which is amazing. US, you get a fucking day off and it's like, okay, back to work. So I didn't hear from Big Brother, Big Sister. But in the media, while all this shit was going on, I was like, you could say whatever you want about me. You could say I'm a sheep fucker. Like, I know I haven't fucked any sheep. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know where I've been. I know where I'm going. I know who I am. I'm a good person. So it didn't really bother me. But when Big Brother, Big Sister called me a month later in January, and they were like, hey, we got your application. We're really sorry we can't work with you because of the media. I was gutted. Yeah, dog. I was like, I was so destroyed. And I thought, oh my God, all the stuff because it was really the moms that were ripping me up online. Like, I don't want that slut training my son and on and on. And so anyway, I had a good solid 20-minute sob, like just a guttural, primal, and then it was like, I call it a God shot, I suppose, but just one of those moments where it was like the word no flashed across my head, and God or whoever the fuck it is up there, I don't know, had this wet washcloth and like cracked me across the face. And it was like, you know what? Fuck you all. I'm going to start a program ran by people who've been there and done it and not read the shit out of a book. And so for 9 months, I sat at my kitchen table and wrote a program called Camp Confidence for teenage girls. It was a 2-day, 2-night wellness retreat where they learned the 5 habits, lessons, and principles that lead to the development of self-love, on top of the importance of building a sisterhood, because those little shits are so mean to each other in high school. They're so dirty, And so they'd come and it was an amazing, amazing experience, but we'd have 8 to 10 of them every other weekend. They're cutting themselves, eating disorders, bullying. Oh, it was so intense, dude. And after 2.5 years, one of my partners got pregnant. And in the downtime, my husband, who's a marketing genius, this guy branded Jetstar and like I Select, and like he's a super smart man. And I think it's important too, to give credit, because we're needed just as much. Men and women are both equally needed to be strong. This whole thing of like women empowerment, I'm not rolling in here saying like, yeah, fucking women are way better than men and rah, 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 like burn your bra, bitches. I'm saying like we need to lift each other up and some, you know what I'm saying? And like be our authentic selves and support each other. Because if it wasn't for David, I wouldn't have, like, obviously he saw what I was doing and saw the vision and the mission, but he was able to then say, right, why don't you roll this into a clothing line? And then from there, it turned into what it did. And, there's a bunch of other bits and pieces along the way in the story, and Holly Holm and beating Ronda Rousey and the universe getting involved and some other hippy dippy shit. But that is how it kind of, went from like crushing men's heads and necks between my legs to then wanting to empower teenage girls and teach them the ways of the world, to then now talking to women about stepping into our strength and our power and, you know, just being your fucking unapologetic self. So it's been quite a ride to get to where we are today. So
that's an incredible journey. Like, even from where you started, and you're saying obviously there's another history there of, you know, drugs and alcohol, and then to step into the bodybuilding, and then step into the strength and that realm, and then step into who you are now. It's like, that's a journey that needs to be fucking documented, and there needs to be a book, and it will be a bloody national bestseller. But
it already is.
Oh,
I'll send you a copy. Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
I know. I published it, and I self-published because COVID was, you know, that was going to take probably 3 years if I went down that traditional path. So self-published, we hit best-selling. I mean, I don't know, at the end of the day, I don't want to discredit it, but, you know, it's Amazon, and you can kind of tweak the algorithm the best you can. And of course, I have the syndrome of never enough, right? I don't want to say I suffer it, because our words manifest, so I experience it. But, you know, I'm like, well, I don't have a New York Times best-selling book. Like, shut up, you dumb cunt. Like, it's just, you know what I mean? Like, be proud that you wrote a book, and it truly, it's a great book. It looks like the Bible, but probably a bit more useful. You know, so.
Love that.
Yeah.
And I want to touch on something you said during your story, about the retreats you're running and the 5 habits.
Yeah. So basically the 5 habits were fitness, nutrition, self-defense, meditation and yoga, and journaling, which kind of turned into more of like a personal development thing, but had this whole book. And eventually what I'd like to be doing is rebranding Camp Confidence. And unfortunately I got it fucking tattooed. Like, check this shit out. It's kind of funny. That's what this hideous tramp. It says it's confidence with a K. And
that's
that was
excellent.
To be like, yeah, it was Confidence by Kortney, and then Camp got added to the top of that. And then now, you know, the logo looks like this. So I always tell people, I'm like, you got to stay focused on the overall outcome, like the big goal, and not get caught up in the detail, which I coined this thing, and I say goals, not controls, because the controls are the detail. You know what I'm saying? Because I thought the logo was supposed to be this shitty tramp stamp that's across my lower back, but it's turned into clean font. It's not script font, and it's black, and it's not cyan. But because we see things turn out a different way than how we had anticipated, we think we're failing, and then we often quit before we're even, you know what I mean? So you just got to keep showing up. But ultimately, what I would love to do is rebrand Camp Confidence into, you know, I don't know, not Girl Guides, because we already have that in Australia, but, you know, Girl Scouts, but name it, you know, GRRRL, obviously, but something to where we can get back to that, because clothing is not my passion. I'm not a fashionista. Like, I didn't wear a fucking t-shirt till the 5th grade. I had no tits, so it didn't matter. But you know what I mean? Like, clothing is not it's just but what I want to be doing is teaching and running programs and making, because what we're doing with GRRRL, you know, we just launched a campaign. I'll bore you with the detail, but we do a fair bit of activism, you know, and I know women put on the clothes and they get it. Like, they're like, finally, I found my home. You know, they take the pledge. The whole point is to build a sisterhood so they can find other women to, you know, network with. And there's still so much to be done, but ultimately, like, the 10-year plan, if some kind doesn't take us into World War III before then and blow us all off into God knows what, you know what I'm saying? Like, why are all you billionaires trying to go to Mars right now? Like, what's really going on? You know, we're all too busy on TikTok fucking stroking each other's dicks to stop and ask like analytical questions. Like, honestly, like, it makes no sense. Even don't get me started on COVID too, because that's a whole nother topic we don't have time for. But but yeah, you know, the 10-year plan is really to look at how we can empower our youth, because it's just, they're so misguided, you know, and I feel like we've really lost our way in terms of teaching old school values and
Fucking
hard work. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna ask a question you should never ask. How old are you?
Oh no, you can totally ask me that shit. I'm 39.
Oh,
Hey,
fuck,
still
really?
young, mate.
Oh, I thought
I
you
know,
were.
I don't,
Yeah, you don't look
this
that.
lighting, the lighting makes me look a little older in here, but yeah, I don't look a day over 21. I know. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'm 30. I'm almost 40. I'll be 40 in November.
Yeah, right.
What will you do for your 40th? Will it be something big?
You know, I don't know. Dave had planned something here, and then now I don't know what the fuck we're doing. We were supposed to be coming back, and I can't say much, but there is a show we were potentially going on, and it still might happen. But now I guess they've cut like the number of incoming passengers by like 70%.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you know what I mean? It's like, so anyway, here we are. Yeah.
Well,
I was going to say that message you have for your with your clothing and talking about how people not just wear it because they like the fit of it, like it's just they identify with that idea that you're putting out there for the women and being strong for everyone, all shapes and sizes. That could not be more true for the girls that in my gym that wear your gear. It's not just because they like the comfort of it. You know, they proudly have, you know, the girl brand on there because it identifies with who they are and what they do. I think that's incredible testament for yourself there, mate.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Truly, truly, you know, and that's the first part of the shift, because you know, it all starts up here. And I mean, I didn't figure that out until, gosh, I was probably 33. And it was funny because there was a guy that he is a former professional footy player. He played for St. George. And he had just heard about, you know, he'd read about the whole porn star scandal and all this shit. And we did our first CrossFit class together. And it was like a fireman carry WOD where we carried each other 200 meters and we did 20 fucking burpees over each other. And he weighed like, I mean, this guy was like 120 kilos. He was huge. And so at the end of it, we're just lying there and just dying. And he's like, yeah, I heard about this. And he's like, so would you want to do some subconscious psychology, a session? And I was like, aren't you like a former football player? Like, what the fuck do you know about like, and I was like, yeah, dude, I'll try whatever. And we ended up doing this session together, and it truly blew my mind because some shit came out of my brain that I had completely suppressed from like 7 years old. It's an intense story. I'll just give it to you in a nutshell. Like you get in this meditative state, and then basically you ask, you know, what your number one limiting belief is. And I said I was fat. And then he said, tell me a little bit more about that. And I, for the first time, because I have thoughts constantly, usually, and no thoughts were coming in or going out. And all of a sudden the word pedophile came out of my mouth. And I just sat there for like 7 seconds. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? Not really, like, again, I'm still not really thinking about it. And he's like, okay, tell me a little bit more about that. And I just sat there and I'm like, I have no idea. And then out of nowhere, it was like my best friend's older brother growing up took me off into the woods and touched me in some inappropriate places. And it was like, it was just how our minds are capable of suppressing shit. And the word molestation sounds horrible, but you know, at the end of the day, it wasn't like I was like, do you know what I mean? Like there are a lot of people who have sexual assault at that young of an age that is just horrific. You know, I experienced rape at 17. Like I could tell you some stories, but again, all of this shit, we work through it. And that's why sometimes I get frustrated when there's so many safe spaces, because I'm like, you gotta face that shit. You know, sometimes it takes time and not everybody's ready to do it for a while. Like it took me 7 years before I could like put down the bottle of alcohol and really, you know, start facing some stuff. But as far as that experience I was talking about previously, what we worked out was that was the first time that I had disconnected from my higher self, whether you want to call that your spirit, your intuition, you know, your inner child, whatever the fuck resonates with you. And because she was like, warning, don't go off into the woods. And I'm like, oh yeah, fuck you. And I went. And as a result, because of this violation, I created this image of myself needing to be ripped up and strong in order to feel worthy and protected. And so that's why my whole life, if I have not seen visible muscle on myself, I felt like a fat piece of shit, which is super interesting. Yeah. And so it's not like learning that made it go away, but to have the answers of it, it just made it was just such a relief. You know what I mean?
It's a weight off the shoulders, isn't it?
Yeah. And so that was my first taste of understanding the power of the subconscious mind, you know, and then from there, like did an NLP workshop, and then I did Psych K, which I've now just revisited 6 years later. And I've just become a master facilitator in Psych K, which you guys should hopefully be hearing more about this next year. Especially when I come back out, I'd love to come up to the gym and do some sessions with your athletes, because it is like straight and to the point. It is like NLP on steroids, but you can create new beliefs, transform stress, and get messages from the universe. And it's like our fucking potential is, and you know, you hear like motivational speakers or gurus, and they're like, you have more potential in your fingertip than you do in the entire universe. And you're like, what the fuck does that even mean? Like, right? Like, make it make sense. But ultimately, so many of us are focused on getting stronger in our body, which is super important. But so many of us, like, at least in my experience, it wasn't until 2 years ago that I finally crossed over that bridge of not giving a fuck when I caught my kneecap in the reflection in the mirror. Because I don't have a BMO, and that's all I want. I want that fucking teardrop BMO, beastly. I want to know on my own leg. I can't develop it, and it used to drive me nuts. And so, you know, so that whole part of like getting in and reprogramming our brain and understanding that our subconscious is 40 million times more powerful than our conscious mind. And so when people join your gym and they're like, yeah, I'm going to do all this shit. It's fucking New Year's. Woo! I threw out all my junk, got my girl gear. I signed up with y'all. Let's do this. And then 2 weeks later, they're sitting on the couch eating ice cream, crying like, how the fuck did I get here? And it's like, yeah, because you have subconscious beliefs that if you lose weight, you're going to be vulnerable, or you're not worthy of love, you don't deserve whatever. We have millions of this shit, right? And we don't know it because it's subconscious.
It's so interesting.
And that's even it's tricky.
It's completely hard to manage. And like listening to your story, it's I guess a similar process, not to take away from your own, obviously, that I've recently gone through. And you kind of realize it's ultimately freedom when you have these realizations. So quick little background for yourself, like obviously powerlifter, love my steroids and just hammered them for such a long time. And it wasn't until I went through therapy this year that I suppressed physical abuse as a child that forced me to believe that I needed to be stronger than anything coming at me. And it's like, well, wow, I created everything around me based off this belief that I needed to be so strong and arm myself to be stronger than any physical threat, which led me down a path of steroids. And it's like
amazing. Yeah.
As soon as you have that realization, it's like, well, now I'm just like, it's like I don't need to take anymore. I have to, and I'm very happy with the way I look, even though I'm not fucking jamming 2 mil of tests in my ass. Like, right.
It's like, that's so amazing, and I'm so proud of you for saying that publicly, because that you have all my respect for that. Like, this guy messaged me on Instagram a few nights ago. He was like, hey, I've spent the past 25 years hating my body. I have 2 young girls. I didn't realize like how fucked up this was controlling my life, and I wanted to take back my health and whatever. I'm training again. What programs do you have? And I just went and looked through his Instagram feed, and it was all like talking about disordered eating and diet culture. And I'm like, fuck, man, that takes a lot for a man to be able to say that. And I was like, look, you have all of my respect. I just sent him a bunch of screenshots of some programs. I'm like, take this shit for free. Like, fucking keep doing what you're doing. And this is the type of leadership we need, you know? and like we can still be masculine. You can still be not. I say we.
Yep.
Look, you got bigger
I don't
guns than
know.
both of us, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like,
I
and probably
like
bigger
that, you
VMOs
know.
already.
I doubt that, but I do have some masculine energy, but I definitely you know, I'm like, this is the type of leadership we need, and you can still be masculine and be vulnerable, and that shit is hot. Let me tell you the story really quick. I was out when I first moved out there. I won't name the any names because it's a small country, but this guy was like second in charge, okay, of a big biker gang, and fucking tatted across the face, gold teeth, right? And we're sitting in his car, and these were early days, right? So I was, you know, only like 6 months clean, still wasn't making like super great choices. And he had told me, because, you know, Americans, I wasn't keen to the term lady boy, and he was like, yeah, I'm going over to Thailand. He's like, I fucking love lady boys. And I was like, what's that? And he's like, you know, he's like, we can't say it because it's not PC anymore, but C's with D's or whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay. Whereas, you know, like I had never seen a man just outwardly be like, this is what I like sexually. And here I am, this fucking badass gangster. I mean, then like 2 months later, he ended up getting shot like 5 times. He lived, but like just such a fucking bad bloke, like just hardcore. And to just be like, this is what I like. Yeah, fuck, it's the best. It's the best of both worlds. And just to stand in his power, it was the hottest shit ever. So, you know, like I would tell men in the early days of these sessions, I'm like, you know, what's fucking attractive is when you own your shit. And it's the same for women. Like today, it's like, you know, it's own your shit. It's like nobody else cares. Men don't care. Like you don't get up behind your woman and fucking bang her from behind and be like, God damn, babe, you need to get rid of that cellulite. Do you know what I mean? Like you don't even, it doesn't,
it's
not
not
even
registering
on your
when I'm
radar.
in that position at all.
No, it's not even on your radar. And yet we drag you guys through all of this stuff where it's like, oh, you know, we have a bad day and then we're miserable and we're self-pity and we're stuck in our head. We don't have we're restricting calories. We don't want to have fun. We're not feeling sexy, and it just ruins relationships, you know? And it's like, ultimately at the end of the day, if we can just all be like, yeah, fuck it, fuck society, fuck all this bullshit, because all they're trying to do is get us to buy more shit to fill a void, and it's never going to last, you know?
100%.
So
like a lot of what, I don't know if everyone knows the author Mark Manson, his popular book of Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. A lot of people realize he wrote a book for men about like dating called Role Models. I'm not sure if you've
okay.
Yeah, and like, look, the first half of this book is fucking brilliant, and it's exactly what we just said about being vulnerable and showing that vulnerability and allowing yourself to let the wall down to create emotional connection with a partner, so to speak. First half of the book is great. I don't recommend the second half. It just feels like Barney Stinson's playbook from How I Met Your Mother. But first half, brilliant. And I do suggest everyone should read it. But it's that vulnerability and allowing, especially I feel for like, obviously myself being a man and being like, grew up in a very Italian traditional family as a kid. Like, those constraints are very heavily put upon you, but it is just about, as you kind of said, just saying fuck you and just being unapologetically yourself and being okay with that, which takes time. And I'm not saying it's, you know, you have one fucking realization and all of a sudden you're like, I'm free. It's literally just putting in the work. And I've always said, like, I'm a big fan of therapy and finding a therapist that works with you and one you can connect with, and then, man, break down those barriers. You know, it takes, you know, you start with one person allowing yourself to be vulnerable, and then all of a sudden you're sitting on a podcast and you just blurt out your story and it just happens. And it's just, but that's the vulnerability we need. And that's what we need all men to do, and realize it's fucking okay.
It is. It's so okay. And I hope you can take some excerpts, you know, for social, that I can just post little, like whatever you can clip together that I can post just straight onto Instagram, because this stuff is so important. And, you know, like you guys are, we all three of us are leaders. We're being absolute true leaders, you know? And that is what's going to help us bypass into that next realm, because everybody that is, you know, whether they're beating their wife or, you know, fucking slamming gear or developing alcoholism, it's all coming from a place of fear. It's all coming from a place of, you know, missing a piece of, you know, missing love. And so it's, yeah, I don't know. And again, to be able to hear, like, I'm a pretty dope chick, and I'm sitting here telling you, like, that would make my dick hard if I had one. Like, right? Like, that's straight. I think they call it ladywood, right?
Yeah,
where
I fucking love it.
That shit is hot. Like, that's hot, not the, you know, hardcore, like, bad boy persona. Because, you know, girls tend to be attracted to bad boys, so I think that might be kind of like old school shit. But that vulnerability is, and that honesty and that level of rawness is fucking hot.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say, Kortney, do you think we're in a better space now than what we used to be in this time? Obviously, we've got a lot further to go as a civilization or a generation of humans.
Question.
Man, beat you to it.
Yeah.
But do you think there's certainly, I think, a lot more people talking about it, which is incredible. But there's still a long way to go, I reckon. How do we get there?
Fucking oath.
I absolutely agree with you that we do have a long way to go. And here's what I do, right? I'm a hardcore recovering conspiracy theorist. So when I first moved out when I was in Melbourne, I in early days of recovery, before, like, I figured out what I was doing with my life, and I had 6 months clean and my husband was away working, I sat on YouTube for like 8 hours a day for like a year straight. And I'd already, like, done a fair amount of research, right? So all of this stuff that, like, the QAnon people are talking about now, I was deep in that shit like 12 years ago. And I'm like, catch up, where have you guys been? You know, but had I lived my life that way and spent the past 12 years in fear, it would have done absolutely nothing. So it helped in a sense that, you know, it wakes you up to questioning everything, right? And I truly have such an open mind. Look, I can't get down with the fact that the earth might be flat. That just doesn't resonate with me. But you know, you've
been in an airplane, you've seen the curve.
Yeah, I've seen the curve. So, but there was so many things during that time that really broadened my mind, I suppose. But it was coming from a place of fear. And now today, when I look and I see the amount of censorship and control and all of these things that are starting to happen, it really does make me wonder. But I'm not in a place of fear about it, and I'm not in a place of control. And I guess that's a reflection of being clean and sober. I just had 11 years. I just hit my 11-year mark a couple weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Very impressive.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a huge deal for the amount of meth I smoked and fucking. No, I'm serious. I
don't mean to laugh, but just that.
No, I know. It's wild. It's so wild. Like, to think that I was a hardcore tweaker, and I don't know how I wound up. I mean, I should be dead. I was a blackout drinker on a daily basis, like, just devastating. For years.
To put, for so long, I try to put all the trauma that I'd been through and, like, you know, other stuff. You try and kind of box it into a way that you try and search for a meaning. Do you believe now, like, going back and reflecting on, like, that now in the position you are in, having experienced all that trauma, like you said, you know, I should be dead. Like, I can count many instances where I'm like, oh, fuck, I should be in prison or dead. And it's like, well, that didn't happen because I don't know whether you believe in the universe, God, whatever it is, that I'm here for a reason.
110%. And that's where today, what I was banging on about with recovery is, like, you learn that there is a God and I am not it. I don't have the answers. You know, I don't know who the fuck I'm praying to. Could be a race of aliens. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just know that we are infinite energy. I believe that, you know, we are being guided and directed. So as long as we ask, because humans have free will, and if we keep it simple and show up and do the next right thing, it helps, because as being an addict and an alcoholic, being a control freak is the crux of my issues. And so when I'm able to just be like, you know what, fuck it, I don't have the answers. My only job is to stay clean and sober. As long as I ask for guidance and do the next right thing, then everything tends to flow. And as opposed to me sitting here trying to think of like, yeah, why are all these billionaires trying to go to Mars? I mean, is this going to turn into, is this preemptive programming from the Hunger Games? Are we all going to get like stuffed and like, do you know what I mean? Like I get spin off into some pretty dark shit. And, you know, all of a sudden be like, oh my God, I got to figure this out. And it's like, no, you don't, cunt. You're not going to figure anything out. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so, and just realizing that, you know, yeah, we are infinite beings, and energy cannot be created nor destroyed. And as far as like, if we're in a better position or a worse position, I think just like everything in life, there's ebbs and flows and pros and cons, right? Like, yes, we definitely are in certain areas, because you're just talking as a man about your issues. That wouldn't have happened 20 years ago. But then again, at the same time, you know, there's certain things where like, you can't talk about shit now because you're going to be labeled, you know, phobic or all sorts of different things. And you're walking on eggshells, and you could be canceled, and everyone's feelings are hurt. And, you know, how do you move through this stuff and have meaningful conversations without, I don't know. But at the end of the day, I think in terms of human evolution, look, we've had several civilizations before us collapse, and you know, we are no different than that. So whether it comes to that, we'll come back and fucking do it again and figure it out. You know, whether it was the Atlanteans, the Mayan cultures, like, you know, like it's just basically like, more shall be revealed. Get some fucking gluten-free popcorn, because I have Graves' disease, so I'm not supposed to have gluten.
Damn.
I know. One other thing, I'm like,
gluten's good too.
Gluten is very delicious, but I also feel your pain, Kortney.
Oh man, so ridiculous. But you know, it'll be what it'll be, and we don't need to have the answers. And if we just keep it simple and do the next right thing. And you know, somebody once said to me that impact trumps intent. But I disagree. You know, as long as you have good intent and love in your heart, and you do the next right thing, it might impact somebody adversely, but you know, you're still good in yourself. And that's what's important, because you're the one that has to go to bed at night with yourself, and you're in your head and live with yourself. So as long as your intent is good, you know, you might impact and hurt someone's feelings, but it's not like you fucking intentionally meant to do it. No. So
that's
yeah,
at the end of the day, you can't please everyone. So
that's right.
With all the cool stuff you're doing, I mean, no doubt helping so many men and women out there. It must be, I don't know if the right word's rewarding, but pretty rewarding when you get a message, whether it's through the DMs or an email, just saying, I listened to your message, or I've been wearing your clothing, etc. And now this has changed, or this is how I'm thinking, or I've been able to open up to my partner, etc. That must be a pretty cool experience for yourself.
Yeah, it is. And I will say, it used to be way more like, it would blow me away, and I would screenshot everything. You know, I would like,
that's awesome.
I'd screenshot so much stuff just to go back and remind myself. But after 6 years, you know, I'm like to the point now where we're in that position with our brand, because business is so difficult, as I'm sure you guys can relate, but with apparel in particular, it's just been this constant cash flow crisis, because we make everything custom. You know, your cash flow is up in the air for 90 to 120 days when you're in production, and to support your growth, you've got to order more clothing. And then you lack in other areas. And if you get a few designs that suck, then you're like, oh, fuck. It really wears you out. And then the shine of, and so getting those messages now, though, I should say, they still mean everything to me. But I'm to that point now where I'm like, okay, like I want to do more than clothing. Like this is, we got to get some substantial change happening. Like I want to see got some concepts for some all women's gyms.
Cool.
Like just like bigger things that it's like,
Yep.
okay, how are we going to take the shit to the next level exponentially before we are, you know, we already are on the brink of a mass extinction. Like that shit, what, you know, I have this really hardcore neocon fucking right-winged friend. I love him. And that's the thing. I can still get along. You still get along with everybody, you know? It's like, whatever. At the end of the day, all these politicians are just puppets. It's a fucking joke. There's no need to like lose your friendships over it. But anyway, he was always about global warming is a hoax, it's a fucking joke, and Trump this, Trump that. Yeah, and then he watched Seaspiracy, and he's like, "Oh my god, it changed my life." Like,
wow,
this is fucked up. And I'm like, yeah, dude. You know, and now like in California, Sacramento just said that all the salmon are not going to make it, and like we're quickly, you know, I don't know what's going to happen, but you know, we can't be in fear. We can only get into action, and you know, just keep doing our little part, and collectively, by you guys doing what you're doing and having these conversations and bringing people on to question. It's important to question authority as well, because these people act like they know what the fuck they're doing, and they don't. You know, they really
they're
don't.
Just like the rest of us.
Yeah, and everybody just sits back and accepts it and takes it, and it's like you know, I don't know. I feel so bad for everybody out there right now, and even in Melbourne just getting shut down again. And it's like, how can these businesses possibly continue to survive when, you know, I haven't gotten vaccinated myself, and I actually was going to before I left Australia, but they had a question on there that said, do you plan on conceiving in the next little while? And my husband and I were thinking about doing IVF. We're not now. I found out my egg count's too low. So I was like, probably the universe trying to tell me I would kick that fucking baby off the balcony and go to prison. So I need my sleep. But, you know, when Dave went in to get his vaccination, they were like, he's all, why is this question here? And the nurse was like, yeah, I don't know. He asked the doctor, he's like, why is this question here? And he's like, yeah, I don't know. You know, and it's like, oh, okay. Well, you don't know. It's been approved for emergency use. It's not approved by the FDA here in the United States. Like there's just so many weird, and then people shaming you into it or trying to bribe you into it. And it's like, you know, just some things just don't make sense to me. And I feel like so many of us are just not asking enough questions, or if you do, then you're labeled as, you know, an anti-vaxxer. And I'm like, oh, that's not me at all. Like, shit, go get your, you know, MMR and, you know, all these other things. But otherwise, I just, you know, even like the rollout of it, it's like they're talking about you guys have not been able to leave for like 2 years. Like, what the fuck? Like, how are you supposed to run your business? How are you supposed to live your life? And at the end of the day, I'm a socialist. Like, I'm all about the common good for the group. Because in capitalism, in my experience, when I had that job making $400 an hour, that did not give me happiness, right? Making money and acquiring more things never filled that void in my heart. What filled my void was being of service to other people. So if, you know, getting a vaccine is being of service to the greater community, then that's what I'm going to do. But you can't prove that. You're telling me that you get a vaccine, and I don't know how the fuck we got on this topic. I apologize.
It's good,
but you know what I mean? Yeah, it is. But it's like, so you can get the vaccine, still spread it. You still got to wear your mask, still got to socially distance, and then you got to get it every 6 months. And then you still don't know. You haven't done enough testing long enough to even really know. Can't tell me why I shouldn't be conceiving. You know, and everywhere you look, there's different opinions. It's like, well, shit. So I just encourage people to, you know, go within, do what's right for them, respect other people's opinions, and don't be a fucking dick about it. Like, there's a way for us to all get along, listen to understand, not listen to be right, do the next right thing, be of service, and just live life. And I guess that's really it.
If anyone, like, I should just put a little insert at the start, just skip to the end, listen to that, and
yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
what do they say?
Then start at the start.
Wow, that was
too
too good.
Too long, didn't read. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Courtney, what would a girl gym look like, you reckon? What's on the plan there? I saw you quickly mention that, and that sort of sparked my interest a little.
Well, I got to send you an NDA. I'm that
Ooh.
far along.
Hey!
Yeah.
So a little bit off the podcast sort of stuff. Gotcha.
Yeah. But we might, you might be the guys that are the ones that help me roll it out there. I don't know.
Love to. I'd love
to.
Already in.
Yeah.
Mate, very conscious of the time. Obviously, we don't want to take too much up. But to finish off,
here we go.
We did tell a little white lie at the start. The next official part of our podcast. 10 rapid fire questions.
Okay.
First thing that comes to your mind, we want to know more and more about you. So, Johnny, take it away. Bang.
Courtney, here we go. Would you rather love or money?
Would I rather love or money?
Yeah.
Yes.
I would rather love.
Excellent. What are you watching on Netflix or any other subscription-based thing right now?
You mean what am I watching on Netflix?
Yeah.
I watch Forensic Files every night before I go to bed so I can be acutely remembered that I can't trust everybody because I want to love everybody and talk to everybody and get in everybody's car, and not everybody is there to fucking be your friend.
I like
Forensic
that.
Files. Yeah, it's true crime. So
get on that.
Yeah.
What's the strangest thing in your fridge right now?
Sea moss. Raw
sea
moss.
moss.
Yeah, a girl made
sea
it.
moss.
It is like one of the most. You guys are fucking cool, by the way. I really like you. I love the structure of your podcast. I love how you opened it up. I love how you ended it, and I love your vulnerability and how you two vibe off of each other. I just think you two are fucking great. Sea moss is one of those like wonder things that has 62 bioavailable different minerals. Alkalizing, getting rid of it does heaps of shit, but I can't actually have it because it's full of iodine, and when you have Graves' disease, that's the one thing you have to absolutely avoid.
Right.
Fuck. I need to get me some sea moss then.
Get you some sea moss.
Mate, what's your favorite toy growing up as a kid?
I had GI Joes.
Yes, GI Joes are cool.
Yeah. I idolized my brother. He was 8 years older than me, and I used to try and pee standing up, and I used to collect comic books. I did everything that motherfucker did. So I would, G.I. Joe.
So cool. When do you feel the most in control?
Ooh, when I'm smashing a workout or killing it on stage speaking.
Yep.
And I'm like checking shit off of a list. If I'm getting stuff done, I am content. But if I feel like I'm spinning my wheels and because I have a really hard time with focus, I get so many things that I want to do, and I'm so creative that it just becomes log jam. And you're like, well, fuck it, I don't even know where to start,
Yep.
Yeah.
Sick. How do you rate your cooking out of 10?
Ooh, 5. A solid 5.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
solid 5.
Yeah.
What's your go? A little off the question. What's your go-to solid 5 out of 10 meal you would cook?
God, it's been so long. Dave usually cooks everything, and this is really I'm really good at just throwing random shit together into a skillet,
Nice.
But my challenge lately is I've been primarily eating plants, so I'm like, I can't say I'm vegan because you can't fucking be vegan 6 days a week without getting your head cut off. But I watched Cowspiracy in 2015, and that shit really fucked me up. I was like, oh my God, the amount, whatever, we won't get into it. But I do believe that cutting back on our meat consumption and dairy consumption is quite important for the future of our planet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
Not completely. You don't need to do it completely. But
steak still tastes good. What you're going to write a song about you? What are you going to call it?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Tiny titties, big vag.
That is officially our greatest song we've had named just yet.
Fuck it, oh.
Maybe that, yeah. What do you think of social media?
fucking hate it. It's a death trap.
Fuck it.
Honest to God, that's why Camp Confidence worked so well. When those girls came out to that program, it was a dead zone. Their phone didn't work, and everybody shit their pants. And for 48 hours, no phone. Yep. And that's something else I'd love to do, is have a no technology retreat whenever I come back out home there. I want to put something together. We all just go get out in the fucking woods, bang some drums, fucking
Yes.
get naked,
Let's do it.
sit naked under the stars, let our dicks flop around, like sit by a bonfire, share deep and intimate stories. I'll let you know. You can help me.
Yeah, when's that? We're in.
It.
Can we throw some cold water swimming in there and we'll get it done?
Yeah, fuck yeah.
What's your favorite T-shirt that you own?
Oh, that's gonna be hard.
Yeah, I don't have a favorite T-shirt because I'm always wearing sports bras.
Ooh,
I like it.
Yeah,
I like it. Now I've got got the 10th question.
I will say,
Ooh.
I lied. I have a shirt that I do cherish that I got when I spoke at the FBI headquarters. They brought me in for like Women's History Month, and it was full circle because when I was in college, long story short, I thought I was going to be an FBI agent because I wanted to go bust all the fucking drug dealers. And then I wound up becoming like an alcoholic and a tweaker, and that didn't work out really well. So to be able to then go to the FBI and speak to them and then like wind up telling my story about muscle fetish stuff and sessions and like, you know, be like, this is what an alcoholic and an addict looks like. That was just one of the most fucking amazing experiences of my life. And I got a T-shirt from it, and you know,
that's sick.
That is cool.
So that would be my favorite T-shirt. Yeah.
I like that. Now I've got a special number 10 and I've been hanging on to this one. What is your number one conspiracy theory?
Ooh. Oh my God. Too many. That's a great one. David Icke is, do you guys know who David Icke is?
No, I can't say.
He was on the news. He was on the news and ridiculed for basically he's the one that coined the Queen is a shape-shifting lizard and that the moon is a hollowed out fucking space station full of like lizard people or some shit.
Okay.
Wow. But when I first heard his stuff, I was like, whoa, that's even way too much for me. But in 2016, I sat and listened to him lecture in Melbourne from like 8 a.m. till 6 o'clock at night. And this guy has gone to like Africa, to the oldest tribes that he could find, and the information he has gathered, like, I mean, it all made sense after he's just, you know, like put it all. And but I'm like, motherfucker, if you've known this much for this long, how are you not dead? You know what I mean? Like, you're working on the inside. But definitely 9/11 was an inside job. I encourage everybody to look up the documentary called PNAC. It's called Project New American Century. And it deep dives into how every fucking war the United States has gone to has really been a false flag. And it's all over oil. You know, when we had 9/11 and weapons of mass destruction, terrorist weapons of mass destruction, there wasn't fucking shit there. And you go through and you look at every country that we've gone in and fucked up and taken over, it all has to do with oil. And I mean, it's really mind opening. And if I wind up dead because of this podcast, just please play Purple Rain, or please play Prince, like upbeat Prince at my funeral, because I want everybody to like have a party.
Definitely do that.
Yeah.
Mate,
hell yeah.
It's been an absolute fucking pleasure having you on the podcast.
This has been one of I do a lot of podcasts.
We're getting you back on.
Yeah, this was one of my favorites. So
no,
this was a hoot.
Absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
Fuck, we need to get you back on. We could spend hours talking. So I know you've got to go. Quick shout out to all your socials. We'll do that thing so people know where to find you.
Oh yeah, so it's just firstandlastname.com is my website. You can get my 8-week watermelon crushing program there. It's free. It's, you know, at home training, and it goes through the technique, how to pick a watermelon, overcoming mindset. And then of course, GRRRL.com, GRRRL, and that's where all of our gear is at. And our
Sick.
social medias are off the back of those websites. So,
Yep.
oh, my book, motherfucker! It's called Crushing It, and it's now it's
Yeah.
now available in Australia. And sadly, Gary Vaynerchuk or whatever his name is wrote a business book called Crushing It, and I didn't know it. Yeah, I know. I'm like, oh, but yeah, it's on Amazon and it's available on print on demand in Australia now, which is really cool. So
Awesome,
That's
dude.
sick.
We'll chuck it all up in the show notes so people can find you. It's been an absolute pleasure. You enjoy the rest of your day, night, whatever.
Can't wait to see you guys in person.
Hell yeah. We're going on
that's
that retreat.
Fuck
Mate,
yeah.
fucking oh. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
You too.
Thanks, Johnny.
Bye, guys.
Appreciate it, mate. Bye.
Bye.